again, everyone. Another day, another VOD review. So let's get into it. We're going to be looking at another Korean review. And I wanted to do this one mostly because I didn't see the game, because it wasn't streamed on Twitch, I don't think. Maybe I just missed it. But at any rate, it was the SPO TV one, which I didn't particularly want to watch. No disrespect to the casters, but I don't find them as good as Monty and Doa. Those are the only casters that I really rate. So let's get into it. MVP versus Tigers. MVP on an upward trajectory towards the end of the split. They're doing well. I think Achilles described them as like a baby SKT. They usually have a fairly weak early game and then a strong late game. Their late game shot calling is typically quite good. As a team, ROX Tigers, most bloody team, highest kills, highest deaths. So that's all you need to know for that. They typically try and snowball advantages, and they take a lot of kill trades and take objectives on the back of that. Stylistically, that's all we need to know about the teams. Talking about the players then, specifically, Ian, a big Varus player. That's why you see the Varus ban on there. Maha has typically been very weak on a lot of champions other than Jhin. His Jhin has been good. His positioning is still pretty odd sometimes. So that's one to watch out for. But on Jhin, he's shown some promise. He's had good games, put it this way. We've criticised him a lot he's been criticised over the course of the season quite a lot, but he's slowly picking up. Obviously, he's still not great. But anyway, let's start talking about the draft. First two bans from MVP are actually really odd, if you ask me. I can understand the Gragas ban, right? Because Gragas is just top of the table right now for most teams. And if you're going to pick something else, then you tend to ban Gragas out. If you have a first pick in mind. So I imagine they want to get the Gangplank or potentially something else like maybe the Hecarim if it weren't banned, and maybe they'd be okay playing that matchup. But what that means is that you leave Nidalee open for Peanut, which is really odd. Leaving Nidalee open for Peanut, probably not the best recipe for success. So they ban Gragas and Elise, which aren't awful bans, but against Peanut especially, I don't think you value these two champions over Nidalee. Especially not if you're going to give over... if you know that Maha is going to be on Jhin, that means that Prey is almost 100% going to default to Ashe because he's like the world's oldest Ashe player. He's been playing Ashe since Season 1, incredibly. He's like the super legacy Ashe player and has a ridiculous accuracy with the Ashe arrows. And you're also giving over the Malzahar pick. So you're giving over two really, really strong initiators for making picks plus Nidalee. So I really don't like this. If they ban out the Nidalee, then it's much better, I would say. I mean, maybe you don't want to get early pressured out by the Elise, but I don't think you go for jungle bans there. I think you ban out some more specific stuff to the enemy players, because Peanut's going to be so happy on Nidalee. It's like his most comfortable champion. Your first rotation, Gangplank, and ROX gets a pretty nice rotation in Malzahar and Nidalee. They then take jungle. They don't need to take jungle, but this preserves their ability to not show the other team the bottom lane so far. They take Jhin, fair enough, priority, because it's Maha's best champion, pretty much, I think. And it also gives you some initiation, which is really nice if you don't have that much from the top lane. I like the next ROX Tigers rotation. I mean, the Ashe is super predictable, like really, really predictable. It's a bit of a no-brainer. There's not much to say there. You want initiation from your bottom lane, especially when you have Nidalee in the jungle, so that's a great rotation. And the Trundle is a pretty good pick. It is technically a flex, although it doesn't have flex value in the sense that you then last pick your top laner depending on whether or not it's a good matchup, because you know where Gangplank's going, pretty much. Like he's almost 100% not going to the mid lane unless they pick a Rumble top. But what it does allow you to do is wait until you see their bottom lane matchup and then decide whether or not Trundle's going to go into support. So ROX Tigers get to at least counterpick something this game. They pretty much just went for priority picks. They get to counterpick their top laner, but that was already going to happen from the very beginning. So they get two counterpicks on the red side, which is okay. It's not awful. The Tahm Kench pick and the Swain pick, the last rotation from MVP, I'm not sure about the Swain. Something else we didn't comment on as far as mid lane matchups go is that they did decide to ban out Talia. can never remember how you're supposed to pronounce it. I'm going to say Talia. They ban out Talia. That is Malzahar's weakest matchup. Normally, if you're looking to play Malzahar, you'd ban Talia. So it's kind of weird that they ban Talia and they ban the counter to Malzahar and then give over Malzahar in the next rotation. Obviously, they really value the Gangplank and they don't want Smeb to get it. But at the same time, if you're going to give over Nidalee and Gangplank, that's not very much CC in the lanes. So maybe Nidalee Gangplank is a better combination to give over rather than Malzahar Nidalee. So, because looking at mid laners from there, into Malzahar, the type of mid laners you'd normally expect would be Vladimir or Victor, who actually don't really have that much CC. So if you're talking about Nidalee, Gangplank, Vladimir or Victor in your solo lanes, none of them have any CC. And if you do have Gragas and Elise banned out, that's all the CC heavy junglers, really. What's Peanut going to default to? Probably a Rek'Sai. So you'd have a really weak team in terms of initiation. Wait, what am I talking about? Peanut would be on Elise. I'm an idiot. Not Elise? Nidalee. I'm an idiot. Regardless, you then get the Rek'Sai, is what I meant to say. So I don't really like this pick ban from MVP. The Swain, I don't know how the Swain into Malzahar matchup goes, honestly. I can imagine he gets pushed in before 6 and then post 6 he's fine. The health and the sustain that Swain builds, if you can activate your ult before Malzahar, like when he flashes, you press ult, then at least you get some sustain back from that. And you're also just standardly tanky because you tend to build Rod of Ages and usually Spirit Visage, so that gives you a lot of relief from the pick pressure that ROX is bringing. Tahm Kench is a nice pick into this. I really like it here because you have the Ashe and because you have the Malzahar. But overall, I definitely give this draft to ROX just because of the way they banned out champions that weren't really relevant. Whereas ROX, they get a Karma ban, which breaks up the Sivir Karma duo, which allows their first 2 picks to go through without being punished by Sivir Karma. You know that Ian isn't really a Sivir player, although Ian? Maha, sorry, I was distracted by Jhin being on him there. You know that Maha isn't particularly great on Sivir, and he'll probably try and default to Jhin. So you take out the Karma, and that leaves out the other side of that equation. And the Hecarim ban as well breaks up Shen, Hecarim. Shen Hecarim super popular at the moment, so that's just a nice standard ban on it. It means that Peanut gets to play his Nidalee into a Rek'Sai. So last pick is Echo. Echo normally does quite well into Gangplank in the top lane, so that's absolutely fine. It just gives you some more split pressure, and it gives you some more CC and initiate and that kind of stuff. Echo's CC, not great, but he brings a lot of slows to the table, and with Echo Trundle together, it's going to be really hard for Jhin to get ultis off, because you can either throw a parallel convergence or a Pillar of Filth down onto him as he's ulting, and that's super annoying. So, after that slightly botched draft review, where I made a lot of mistakes in just getting muddled up, but overall, you get the picture. ROX is probably winning out this draft, and they're going for a super pick heavy comp. And it seems like MVP are pretty much just trying to survive the laning phase, honestly. ROX's comp is going to turn on really hard at level 6. Once again, I haven't watched this game yet, so I'm seeing this for the first time. Bottom lane matchup wise, Trundle into Tahm Kench is absolutely fine. You'd probably expect Prey to just about get the push in that lane. Trundle has slightly higher sustain off of minion pushing than Tahm Kench does, because if you're not harassing Tahm, he doesn't get any sustain off of it, and he won't have his E for the first couple levels. So they should get the level 1 push on that lane. Kura's going to push in Ian on the Swain, because Malzahar will have earlier push. And Smeb will probably push in ADD. So MVP's draft, not only is it giving over probably a bit too much to the ROX Tigers in terms of their comfort champions. I mean, you've got super comfort all the way down the board there. But you're also picking into a lot of losing lane matchups. So ROX actually going for the swap, which is interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Maybe they're predicting this. I mean, both teams just went for a standard fan art with defensive wards to try and spot any swaps. But they go for a late swap, and that I think ROX is looking for the 2v2 lanes here, because I don't think you want these standard lanes as MVP. But they're going to lose out on it. So, two-man invade. The two-man invade is normally fairly easily punishable, but Peanut actually gets forced out here. So that's a pretty big win for MVP at level 1, actually, because they get to take 2 camps on their weak side. They're going to get to take the blue buff just about. Gorilla didn't get invade, they weren't in position in time because they late rotated up. I'm not sure why their rotation up to the top side was so late, but Gorilla's only going to get 1 little minion out of that, so it's a little bit of XP away. But ROX loses 2 whole camps, so Peanut's going to lose his blue buff eventually, unless he does something really crafty. Should be a 3 buff for Beyond, which is great, because you really want to deny the Malzahar the blue buff in the early game so that Ian can get the push onto Kuro. So lane swap should play out fairly standardly, minus that jungling addition. So what's Peanut going to do? Peanut has gone... Okay, so Peanut goes straight back into his own blue side jungle, onto the weak side. Slightly risky. Beyond potentially could have just gone straight to Peanut's blue side, but he wouldn't have had red buff. But he could have picked that up later. I think Peanut's still going to lose his blue buff though. He should do. There's no way he should be able to contest this. Yeah, he's backing off. So he's just trying to steal a camp there. He might try and go for a Spear Smite steal though. This is really clever by Peanut, because you wouldn't expect him to be on this side of the jungle after he's been forced out. Nice ward from Beyond. You wouldn't really expect him to be here right now, because normally the bot lane can collapse and kill him. But Kuro's managed to push out the wave against Ian, so he's at least relatively safe from the mid lane angle. He's going to challenge for this buff. Okay, he doesn't quite get it. This overall does mean that Beyond gets a big XP lead, because this whole time Beyond's been farming, and Peanut's just trying to capitalize off of things. Okay, so I don't know why the bottom lane isn't coming over to stop Peanut from doing this. I don't know why they're letting him 1v1 their jungler on his weak side. There was a wave that pushed out of the tower. I mean, they're trying not to lose tempo, but... Wait, how did Tigers take that tower so much quicker? What's going on there? What's going on there? Why is that tower pushed so much quicker? It shouldn't be. Did they just mismanage the wave? AG's on level 1, Smeb's level 2. Oh, okay. So ROX has a really big level lead across the board. Why do they have such a big level lead? Every single one of the people in... Okay, so Maha's 3, Max is 1, ADD's 1. How did the ROX get that level lead when they were pushed out of their jungle? They should have a level disadvantage. I don't get it. Smeb is on 8 CS. This is really odd. What happened there? What happened when they went up to the tower? Why do they have such a big level lead? Smeb especially, why is he up? Oh, I see, because he gets more farm at the beginning stage of the game. Right, of course. So, Smeb... Okay, so this is how the trade-off works. MVP invades into the jungle with a 2-man invade, which means Smeb gets to come and soak some of the lane XP. So he gets an extra... Oh wow, he gets 5 CS with that Time Winder. He gets a whole wave here. He gets an entire wave here, which means that basically he's sharing much less XP. So ROX shares much less XP off the board. They lose their jungle on it, but because MVP commits 2 people into the jungle start punish to push Peanut out of his jungle, then ROX gets way more XP on their solo laner, because if there's 2 people in the jungle, Smeb can just walk into lane and start pushing out. So that's why Tigers have such a big XP lead, which gives them a tempo lead. If you don't ban Nidalee, I'll show real claws. Interesting. Wow, Peanut has a 92.3% win rate on Nidalee. That's disgusting. Jesus. Okay. So this is huge now, basically. I don't know if Smeb got the gold or if they shared the gold because they were just pushing the tempo advantage down, but it doesn't matter. They get standard lanes where ADD has to overextend. So ROX gets the best of both worlds. We said at the beginning of the game they wanted standard lanes. They wanted the 2v2 in the bottom side and they want this 1v1. Well, they just won. Smeb's just going to abuse so hard. And the wave's pushing into him as well. So Peanut can come up here, force ADD off this wave, and then just guarantee a freeze for Smeb. Which is why he's putting Vision down deeper into the jungle right now, so that he can see if Beyond's going to come for a lane gank. Because this lane should push towards Smeb unless he plays super aggressively. He's low on mana now, but I think he started Corrupting Potion and potentially went for a Dark Seal after that first tower. I probably would have. Dark Seal, Corrupting Potion. I mean, Corrupting Potion into Dark Seal is like your most efficient start as pretty much anything, by the way. Even if you don't have mana, Corrupting Potion's ridiculously strong. It levels out in terms of, like, versus buying potions, it becomes more cost effective after your first back. Smith didn't actually buy anything. Oh no, he didn't have time to go back, did he? Because he TP'd to the top lane after the initial play. So they forced Beyond out of his jungle. And now ROX should be able to play the style they want. They should just be able to push, 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 push. And this is probably a lot of what you're going to be seeing in the coming meta in patch 6.15, because of Blizzard essentially forcing people into standard lanes at least more often early. Okay, that was a bit greedy from Kuro staying there for that extra push. He's down in CS, so his matchup's going Ian's way, surprisingly. Even before 6 it was going this way. Now at 6 it should start going Ian's way even more. Until Kuro at least gets his Morellonomicon, which he is rushing. But now Ian has Catalyst, it should be fairly happy days for him. But yeah, you should start seeing this style of play where you have strong pushing lanes and you just invade in the jungle more and more and more, because of people being forced into going for standard lanes more often because of the changes coming to towers in 6.15. If you didn't know, then the bottom lane no longer has its double resistances shield until 5 minutes, and no towers have it after 5 minutes. And there's also a First Blood Tower gold. Okay, so that gank is a result of Beyond getting forced out of his jungle by Peanut so that he's not able to get wards in the river. Whoa, Beyond. How did you get that double kill? Okay, so let's watch that whole play again, because I was kind of chattering away. So, they blow pretty much everything at this point. They have no flashes. Beyond's able to pick up Peanut because he's a level above him and he does more damage. And they chase into that bush. Wow, they really over-chase that. I mean, they have no vision in there, and Kuro just walks straight up to Beyond. So they end up getting a 2 for 2. Which isn't the worst thing in the world for MVP. Who did the kills go on to? So Beyond gets to Peanut and Smeb. I would rather be ROX in that situation. Smeb's going to force that advantage even harder. Peanut actually doesn't get much damage at all down initially onto Ian. How does he take so much damage? Oh, just from the AoE. He just takes so much damage from the Swain AoE, and then Beyond knocks him up. And this is crazy greedy. All those minions as well. There were 5 minions plus a cannon minion there. Arrow's gone down, Exhauster's gone down, 3 Tahm Kench stacks on each person. They can't really chase anymore. So they get 2 summoner spells for it though. They get Exhaust and Heal, which is a great trade. So now, with Smeb about to push this lane in, bottom lane going back, the ROX Tigers can start playing super aggressive. I'm not surprised they went for a mid lane gank because Kuro's struggling a bit. It's the only lane that they're not going to be able to just perma push all the time because Ian's playing his matchup pretty well. Ian's actually had a great performance this whole split, but Smeb is so far ahead in CS now. Just because he's been able to freeze this whole time. So before I cut back to replaying that little gank in the middle lane, what I was saying is that this whole thing, that gank is a result And Smeb being able to be there, but ADD not being able to be there, which is even more impressive if they get a 2-for-2 and a 3v2, is because they were able to take that tower, push the lane all the way in, Peanut played towards that side of the jungle, they forced Beyond out, Beyond's not able to get any vision in the river, and then Smeb can freely make that roam across. So that's how they translated their top lane tower advantage into a middle lane gank. It didn't go well because they overchased, they could have just got a free kill and got out. But hey. Oh no, they still would have traded 1 for 1. But well played from Beyond to sniff it out. Really well played from him. $77 CS to 26. That's painful. That's so painful if you're ADD. I mean, ROX has total control right now. I'd imagine when this wave gets pushed in and ADD starts farming it out, you'd go for something across the other side of the map because you have a 3-2 now level advantage. Smeb's going back to buy. Wouldn't be surprised if he went for a teleport play pretty soon. Peanut's on the bottom side, so they can start making a play for this Infernal Drake as early as possible. He's going to clear out some vision, look for Beyond a bit. Beyond spotted top side. That makes Peanut and Kuro the freedom they want to clear out the pink wards in these bushes, and now they can set up for dragon control. Smeb's actually just going to roam down, which makes sense. ADD's pushed into his tower. Bottom lane's pushing in as well. Now they're rotating up towards the Drake. Interesting they don't decide to go straight for the Drake here. They could have done it easily. But they decide to go for a mid lane gank instead. They don't even go for a mid lane gank. They're just trying to tilt this top lane matchup even harder. I'm surprised at that. I would have thought to go for the Infernal Drake there as soon as possible. I mean, Gangplank can answer with his ulti, but you're still on a 5v4 at the end of the day. And Swain is still scaling with the rower, so I don't really see why you don't go for that, to be honest. Prey was on a good recall, he had his BF swords and 2 daggers. I think ROX could definitely have gone for a dragon there. Oh, it wasn't Infernal, it's Mountain. Maybe that's something to do with it. The comp isn't actually good at sieging, at all. It is a good Baron and Dragon taking comp though. I mean, with Malzahar, you have a lot of damage onto objectives, just from the little Void army crap. I'll take it eventually though. Okay, so they spot Beyond on top side now. Kuro's thinking of going back though. Okay, fair enough. Why take the dragon when you can just kill the enemy and then push into the tower? So what does that gank stem from? When do they see... Do they see Max go back? I don't actually think they do. So pushes into that tower. Oh, Max recalls on a ward. He walks forward onto that ward in the bush. Look at him recalling right there. There's a ward in that bush. He walks forward instead of backwards to recall. I don't know why you do that. I don't know why you don't just walk back to your tower and recall there, because this gives them the opportunity for this dive. You see Maha's still in vision when he's recalling there. That's a bit of a misplay from him. And like, there's no reason for them to not recall at the exact same time. If they coordinate properly there, even if they recall in that bush, all they give up is a Drake, but instead they give up a kill and a Drake. If they recall together at exactly the same time, then I don't think ROX necessarily goes for that gank, and even if they do, Max just devours and flashes if he flashes the arrow. So yeah, not a big fan of that play. That's why that happened. ADD is catching up in CS, but that's because Smeb's just pushing him in constantly. I like the Iceborne Gauntlet rush here. More CDR, more wave clear, more ability to push. Plus the Sheen damage for auto attack trades. So Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Iceborne Gauntlet on Echo. A lot of the time you'd see an Echo just rushing Triforce in this situation. If you're this far ahead and the only magic damage threat is Swain, then you're pretty happy with an Iceborne Gauntlet. Beyond is actually out farming Peanut though, potentially because he got such an early Tiamat off of his 2 early kills. His farm speed must have just gone through the roof. Can't really challenge for that blue buff without Malzahar there. So we're looking for Smeb to make a lot of plays here. It's going to be hard to dive the Swain. Oh, he went for the Hextech GLP. He didn't go for Rod of Ages. That's interesting. So now he gets a nice little AoE slow off of his thing. Shoots out a bunch of frozen bolty things, which is great for Swain because if you're close to people, it works better. It works better. You know, you hit them with more of the bolts, I believe. So ADD is catching up in levels. Smeb's been, instead of freezing the wave at the top, he's just been perma pushing this in. I like that decision because it gives you more pressure on the other side of the map. But we haven't actually seen Smeb use his TP that much. I think the Tigers could be further ahead. Given that they got the first tower and like a 70 CS advantage on Smeb, they're actually not that far ahead. Mainly because of the mid lane matchup with Ian doing so well. He's actually putting out a lot of pressure onto the map. Stopping Kuro from being able to go and do stuff. Stopping the Tigers from being able to use Smeb to dive the middle tower. But he doesn't have TP, so I don't know why they haven't leaned on this bottom side more, honestly. I think they could have made... I think Smeb could have just pushed in a wave and then roamed mid, or pushed in a wave and then TP'd bot, and it would have been fine. Maybe he doesn't want to get answered by the Gangplank ulti and lose map pressure. Maybe he just wants to keep Gangplank there. ADD actually hasn't used an ulti yet as well, which is worth noting. He's had some decent Gangplank performances. Okay, so this makes much more sense as well. Just pushing him in and taking the Rift Herbs. They take both of the neutral objectives on the map. And this is emblematic of the Tigers style. Instead of going for a play onto one of the towers, they go for a play on a neutral objective and kills. They just go for kills a lot of the time. So the bot lane gank, which they then translated into an objective, for example. Rather than going for the objective at first and forcing a team fight off of that, they'd rather make a pick and then go for the objective, which makes sense with this comp. Makes sense. Team fighting into Swain with a Nidalee is kind of hard, as you saw in the 2v2 gank earlier. Peanut going for a Rod of Ages, interestingly enough. I prefer the Rylai's build, especially with Swain in the enemy team. Max flashes the arrow. That's what should have happened last time when they were in the bot lane and they lost the dragon, because Max recalled on a ward. So both mid laners doing a good job of roaming there. The wave pressure is fairly equal now. Now that Kuro's got his Renonomicon, Ian can't outpush him. Shouldn't be able to anyway. The farm should just go exactly even. Ian might get the wave pushed 5 seconds earlier, but Kuro should still be able to take the wave. No problem under the tower. Obviously, he's Malzahar. Potentially that's why he drops from CS, because Ian was just managing to get it into the tower every time. And if you're under tower, Malefic Visions doesn't really help you CS that much. So arrows down. This limits ROX Tigers playmaking potential for the next couple of minutes. You can still make plays onto the mid lane though. MVP is doing a good job of fighting over the blue side vision though. Considering they lost the tower so early, they still managed to get blue buffs onto their mid laner. Look at the vision control in the jungle right now. They're investing a lot of pink wards into that side of the map, and they are fighting over that side. Potentially just because Beyond is such a strong duelist right now. Early game Rek'Sai with the Tiamat is so painful to duel into, and It's part of the other reason why I don't really like Rod of Ages on Italy. I would have preferred just straight into either more damage items or a Rylai's. I really like the Rylai's build on her. Beyond rushing straight for the Ravenous Hydra, not Ravenous, Titanic Hydra and Cinder Hulk, I imagine, but I don't think he's even upgraded that. I think he went straight for the Stalker's Blade. No vision from him at all, no wards from the Rek'Sai, which is brave. He is a level up, so he's just looking to duel, I guess. Looking to farm, wants to put the team on his back. Gangplank's just completed his Triforce, so that's at least a nice little thing for them. But because Beyond's so far ahead, well not so far ahead, but because Beyond's actually a threat, they are able to continue getting blue buffs onto Ian, which is a huge factor in this. In a Swain matchup, blue buff is so important. He's now completed his Abyssal Scepter, so they're in a really good spot right now. Here comes the TP, Gangplank ulti to answer, plus TP. And that play does not work out. Are they going to re-engage onto this? So can MVP fight for this dragon? They don't really have any of their ultis, and there's still a Malzahar ulti up, which makes going in for a steal difficult, and walking in as Ian difficult, and yeah, right there. There you go. Okay, so MVP gets out of a team fight and then walks back into a dragon pit one by one, and everyone dies. Max was nearly there in time, but instead he's just going to die. That's the problem with ROX, is that you might survive the first engage, but the second one, they'll probably get you. Wow, a full ace at 19 minutes. So let's go back right to the beginning of that sequence and see what went wrong. First in the initial gank, why this gank didn't come off well. Speed, or half the speed. So they have vision of ROX here. They have vision. Malzahar's still coming at the mid lane. Both the mid lanes are in base. Gritter goes in for the play. And when's the TP come in? Okay, so Smeb's TP comes in first. The exhaust goes down onto Prey. They are nuking Max instead of Mahar because Max's flash is down, so their target prioritization is probably right. Nice timing on the shield from Max. He did not have much time to react to that. And Beyond sniffs the gank out, mostly because they just ran straight onto it with no vision. But a lot of the CC potential isn't here. Pretty much all they have right here is the Ash Arrow, which gets put onto Max at like really close range, so it doesn't do much, and he still has his grey health up. So potentially a bit of an over-ambitious gank attempt here. Gorilla having to flash out the way of that. Interesting that he flashed like the second bullet. He must have been scared of the return from Beyond. And then, well, the Gangplank ulti did a lot to help out. This is when, well not this, but soon is when they mess up. So Malzahar has actually managed to get here way earlier than Swain. Way earlier. And now MVP's super split. ROX disengages a full unit. And they already have a call in mind. This is the thing with ROX. They might go for a gank that doesn't work out, but they have something in mind. They know that they're going for a gank because they want to get the objective afterwards. Whereas a lot of people will just try and go for that gank and then be like, oh, where are we going now? So let's look at the positioning here. So do they have vision? They have vision of Kura right there. Ian has full vision right here because of this ward right here. He knows that these people are here. So why is he going in for this when the Tahm Kench is in base so they don't have Devour there against the Malzahar? This is the one draft. This is why you saved your support till last, so that you could counter the Malzahar with the Tahm Kench pick. So why is Ian walking in here? It's just bad communication. Max has his ulti. They could try and stall this out. But ADD and Mahar are around the back of the pit as well. Ian's just so out of position there. So out of position. That's just to free capitalise. Look where ADD is right now. He has no way to get into this fight. He doesn't have his ulti. So that's why that goes so south. And the rest of his team, Mahar runs up to try and help him. Why do you need to run up on a Jhin? The only thing you're useful here is your W, honestly. So that's pretty bad. Pretty bad. ADD flashes there. probably a bit over ambitious to flash over this wall. I mean, look how many of them there are. You're against the Nidalee as well. Like, you're not going to get away from a Nidalee just by flashing over a wall. Okay, so that team fight, all in all, was played super badly by MVP in terms of their like positioning and also actually just acting as a unit. You saw after the initial gank went south and was over and they got out of it without actually losing anyone, the team just splits and everyone goes in different directions. There's not a unified call there. So that looks like just communication and general awareness problems from Ian. Maybe Mac shouldn't have gone back. I mean, he dropped pretty low. He dropped pretty low to the Ash arrow, but managed to hit his grey health in time. So he would have been super low, and he didn't have flash. So I can understand why he went back, because he had his ulti up and he thought he could get back in time. But that should have been communicated. I'm going back. I have my ulti. Wait until I get there. And Ian just walks into a Malzahar in full vision. Oh lord, Smeb now has Dead Man's Play as well. That's a lot of armor. ADD is going to really struggle with only a Triforce against this. And it's going to reduce his ability to actually do anything to Smeb. Because if he builds a Yomu's now, then he still doesn't do anything to Smeb. He takes like 10 of Smeb's armor off and he just does sod all. I mean, he still has like % armor. Shred on it, well not shred, but ignore on his Q. But yeah. Or he can build a Last Whisper and not do damage to anyone else on the team. Peanut's finished his Rod of Ages, so that dip is through. Oh god. Tigers have 2 dragons. Prey has finished his initial 2 items. That was a nice CC chain. That was pretty perfectly chained CC. Ian doesn't have flash, so why is he up so far? They don't have any wave pressure. They don't have any vision. Okay, so when's the last time they see Prey? The last time they see Prey is never. Not since the last play. Not since the last Prey. Prey has been completely off of the map for this entire time. So he walks all the way down to there. He still hasn't shown. Nidalee shows in the bottom lane. And he just walks up to the Malzahar again. You can't play this aggressive when you have no vision and they have Malzahar Ash. Second time now, Ian completely disrespects the pit comp. Completely disrespects the fact that they have Ash Malzahar. And Gorilla can just tank out the tower and dive Beyond. Poor Beyond, coming in to save his team. Goes from 2-1-0 to 2-3-0. So now you get a free tower. That's probably going to be all she wrote for this. After you give the Tigers 3 towers, and you probably lost quite a while ago. Smeb's so tanky now. Poor ADD. What can he do? He's just been so set behind from minute 1 of this game. Not even necessarily because of his fault. I mean, maybe he should have gone back into the top lane to try and scavenge some farm at the very beginning, but the Tigers actually didn't 2-man invade. They invaded super late. So they're intentionally putting Smeb behind there, putting ADD behind there and putting Smeb ahead, which is really clever because this matchup, Echo wins out in the push and he'll be really abusive, and if he gets ahead, like he is now, then there's very little way for Gangplank to come back, apart from just to match him in global pressure and try and use the cannon barrage as often as possible, which he didn't do. He didn't use many cannon barrages early, but you know, where can you gank? There's barely any CC in any of their lanes. Ganking Malzahar is super difficult. So is there any vision at all? No, there's literally not a single iota of vision on the map for them apart from on the top side. He is playing slightly towards the top side, but he could be playing... He should have been waiting here. Like, look at how far away Beyond is. Whoops. Why is that? Why are annotations? No, come on, stop doing that. Beyond is miles away there. Case in point. That was the point of what I was saying. Beyond is miles away. You don't need to walk up that lane there. Nice Gauntlet are doing some serious work on that tower. And Smeb is, wow, 70 CS again. Back to 77 CS and 3 levels above ADD. And this is why Smeb has so many MVP points. Because the Tigers play towards him when he has good matchups. They actually willingly put their Nidalee jungle behind. Peanut got 3 buffed at the start of the game and lost, like, I think he was 2 camps behind Beyond. Yeah, he was at least 2 camps behind. Just to set Smeb ahead in this matchup. So that's really clever from them. And there's those Malzahar Void Army minions we talked about. But, like, who even goes to check in this situation? Rek'Sai can go in and then get eaten by Tahm Kench, which is pretty nice. But he burnt his flash for the arrow, so you lose out there. After the Baron goes down, you probably don't need to go in there and check. It's already gone. Smeb can zone with parallel convergence. Pillar's gone down. There you go. 2 people zone with Pillar. That's what you pick the Tahm Kench for, but they've not been using the Tahm Kench. He's not been in the right place. Oh wow, Kuro goes down real quick. Wow. Exhaust Gorilla, but he has flash. Potentially a bit of an ambitious exhaust. If they knew Gorilla had flash, then it's probably unnecessary. Why does Smeb go back in there? That's so risky, you're not going to get a kill there. Anyway, that's just classic Smeb. So what goes wrong in this team fight? Okay. Slow this down. So Malzahar gets... Okay, so Malzahar ult is off the table. Then the Gangplank ult comes in. Here we go. There's Beyond. Tunnel's in. 2-man knock up. Beyond again. Winning team fights. That was even after the Swain Nevermove had gone down. So I commented on the fact that they'd used their Pillar and their parallel convergence, and it's only just coming up now. Gorilla's also out of mana, so this was pretty overambitious by the Tigers. They could have waited for their cooldowns to come back up. They have an Ocean Drake, so they would have regenerated some mana for the Pillar to come back up, and they would have got the parallel convergence back up as well, and then you can make that play. But they'd use those tools to zone to try and take the inhib. But after that, Beyond just has a free ticket in onto Prey and Kuro, who are standing on top of each other quite conveniently. I mean, there was a 4-man Gangplank ulti come down. So let's turn that back up to normal speed. Let's put that on. Pass the replay. Ow. So ADD bought the Giant Slayer first, so he is going for the Last Whisper. Which feels so bad for him. That feels so horrible. Because no one else on the team has any armor. So that item is completely worthless against literally everyone except Smeb. There's his Last Whisper. Or his, whatever it is, Lord Dominic's. No, Mortal Reminder? I can't remember which one that is. I always get confused between them. Either way. At this point, we're in perfect game territory. It's pretty close. And they got the Rift Herald as well. All 3 dragons, Rift Herald, Baron, all the towers, haven't lost anything. So it looks like it will be a perfect game, apart from the kills. Objective perfect game. Or perfect objective game, I should say. Now they do the push again, but they do it right. With Smeb pushing on a bottom lane, doing ridiculous amounts of damage to towers. He now has a Spirit Visage, so that play becomes harder to make because he's so much tankier. And more CDR, up to 30% now. Just from items, that is. Well, that was brave. But they get a tower for it. Now it's pretty much just a matter of holding out. If they can just keep the pressure on this inhib right now, if they think they can keep trading back and forth without letting MVP go back to base to heal while the super minions come into the base, then they get it. Yeah, they get it. Does Smeb have ult? Yeah, he does. Oh wait, how did Malzahar go down? I didn't even see that. Oh wow, he takes a big... Is he stuck? Oh no, he's stuck. Oh wow, look at him. That's horrible. Nice pillar from Gorilla. He knocks him into the in here, but then he gets stuck. Wait, what's doing that damage? Oh, the Malzahar. Silence. Got him. And the ignite from Gorilla and a volley from Prey was all it took. That's so unfortunate. Still, great pillar from Gorilla. That's funny. Okay, well, I don't think we have to carry on particularly farther with this VOD review now. I think this is pretty much done. I won't bother wasting the next 5 minutes of your time with the Tigers crushing out this game. I'm sure you can just watch it live if you really want to. So that's going to be all from me from this video. Hope you enjoyed it. We saw Tigers playing really cleverly around Smeb. That was actually a really interesting lane swap to watch, because at first I thought MVP were actually clinching it out with better jungle control from Beyond, pushing Peanut out of his jungle, but the fact that Smeb got an entire wave of bottom lane CS just on the first wave, because the bottom lane from MVP invaded, was enough to tilt this entire game. And then seeing how ROX Tigers played around just pushing that lane permanently and taking advantages off of that was really fun to see. So that is all from me for today. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.